Hey, welcome to our Retire Early Lifestyle, where we talk about all things good and bad that affect our lifestyle in the here and now. No delayed gratification on this channel, no way. And I've got some whoppers for you today, but it's so windy, getting windier, I'm not sure I'm going to be able to complete this video. I love the wind, but it's not conducive to video making. And I'm holding the camera a little bit closer to myself because I'm trying to get it out of the wind. And I got some whoppers for you today. Hang tight. Let's talk about them. It's still windy. I hope you can hear the video, but I just saw an article today that says that the White House released a report proposing. Now, we had to do a whole report on this just to propose this, which is interesting to have to make a whole report, which is a persuasion piece. That's what that means. Proposing that firms engaged in crypto mining practices, what does that make it sound like? Practices.
Well, it makes it sound like they're doing something wrong.
Face a 30% tax for the cost of the electricity that they use. Now, hold on a second here. There's all kinds of people that use electricity. This is not 1899. This is 2020, and I dare say, I know that there are places in the world that are still developing, but in general, electricity is not a new thing. Lots of people use electricity, and in America, almost everyone uses electricity. Although they don't have to have electricity, but most people choose to have it. And more people are producing their own electricity. And the point is that people that use electricity usually are paying for it. Either somebody else is producing the electricity and the consumer is paying for it. Just like anything else that we use in society, we typically have to pay for it, although more and more we are being convinced that a society where people don't have to pay anything and they get free stuff, we're being persuaded into believing that that's a good idea, even though it's never worked before. So they're proposing that people in the crypto mining practices be taxed. Now, I've said in other videos that anytime you want to discourage an activity, well, just tax and regulate it, and that typically will discourage the activity because water seeks its own level, and so does money. And so, for example, in Italy, I did a video showing you when we were in Italy that our electric bill was just as high as our rent. And we dissected the bill and showed you that fully at least half, if not more, was all taxes. Remember, this is a utility bill. People think, oh, I want to move to Italy and it's going to be cheap. But let me show you the graph. Right here is the graph. You can see on the graph that, unfortunately, more than 50% of the cost that you're paying of your electric bill is in hidden extra charges or taxes that make up fully more than 50% of the bill. This is the difference that we've seen so far in Europe. It's a shocker for Italy because our utility bill it's higher than it was in the States. So in addition to actually paying for the electricity that you consume, people are being taxed to such an extreme that some people can hardly make it. They can hardly pay their bills. And then we wonder what causes poverty when all of somebody's production goes into feeding these kinds of taxes. And so what do people do? Well, they get their own solar panels and they get passive solar water tanks, black tanks, and put them out in the sun, out on the roof, so that they can get hot water that way. But my point is that these articles are slanted in such a way to make it sound as if this is a good thing. The idea that something good can be discouraged or eliminated by taxing it. And how does that come about? It's as if to say that you have a garden and some of the trees are good and they give you good fruit, and some of the trees are bad, they give you bad fruit. But we're going to tax the good trees. We're going to tax the ground that you use in order to grow, you know, and we're just going to tax everything about it. So how do we get to a level where we just are able to do these things that are good and just produce things that are good? Things like a good tree and a good fruit, a good decentralized monetary system. It already exists. On another note, Coinbase's CEO or founder is quoted as considering Coinbase is like the largest Bitcoin and other cryptocurrencies onboarding platforms and trading platforms and such, where people can buy Bitcoin. And yet these are companies that are fully licensed and everything like that, and yet they're being discouraged to such an extent that rumors are cropping up that they may consider leaving the US. And of course, a lot of companies like working in the US. They don't really want to leave. I mean, we've been abroad 12 years and we've been all over the globe pretty much. There are still a few places we haven't been. And if good ever really does triumph over evil, we will do more traveling. And we are hopeful that that day comes sooner rather than later. But even if it doesn't, we're still going to give you our whoppers. But that a platform like that is already fully vetted and licensed and operational like that, taxed, regulated, would have to consider possibly leaving the US. It tells you something about the environment. But again, he's hopeful that he won't have to do it. A lot of you folks that have gone abroad or are considering going abroad or watch a lot of videos about going abroad, you've heard statements like onshore is the new offshore. What does that tell you about the environment? It used to be 20 years ago, and even earlier than that, people like Aristotle Onassis were one of the very first business people that, being himself a victim of bad local government, almost losing his life and barely making it out of his country with the shirt on his back, literally, he learned as a young man that he couldn't trust. And so he internationalized and he became very big. So his business flourished, became one of the richest men of his time, maybe even the richest man, thanks to being largely outside. And we're led to believe that being outside is bad. But if it's a bad tree, if you're surrounded by bad trees, getting yourself out of that garden is good. So moving yourself from this bad garden full of bad trees and going over here to this good garden with a bunch of good trees, that's good, because you're going to be able to eat good fruit that sustain you and make you healthy and all that. And so, but when everybody starts doing something, it gets the attention of the bad guys. You got the bad guys here and everybody's leaving this bad garden, going over there to the good garden. It's like, oh, wait a minute, we can't have that. We can't let people just leave. It's like the Pharaoh in the Old Testament. Why we can't let the Israelites just go, what? This Moses guy, what? He thinks he's just going to show up and say, yeah, God said he needs us, we're going to leave. What, you think we're just going to let you go? And so that's why you heard things like onshore is the new offshore, because the environment offshore is getting ridiculous to the point where, is it intentional? You tell me. How does an environment that used to be outside of oppressive regulation all of a sudden, well, I say all of a sudden, slowly and incrementally is more like it, over a period of 20, 30 years, become an environment that is more hostile, more and more hostile? So yeah, a lot of these businesses don't really want to go offshore. They want to be in the US, even though taxes are unfavorable. Well, I can just see it now. I mean, Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob of the Old Testament, they went out and had their agricultural business and they used gold and silver, and here they are being demonized about how, well, criminals use gold and silver, the whole gold and silver industry, why it's not, crime is not a bug, it's just part of the way things are in that industry that use gold and silver. You could just see the demonization of people that just want to live free and finding liberty in an unfree world, or finding freedom in an unfree world. Is there a place left to go? You tell me. And that's the kind of world we live in, the demonization of liberty. But Abraham heard the voice of God and went out, found himself a spot where government was friendly and they respected his belief in the Creator and pretty much left him alone. And yes, he did pay a small amount of taxes, which in comparison to today is just a minuscule amount. And it's like I was talking to a local here, a local mechanic. He was replacing the shocks on my car, and he said to me, "Did you get a receipt? Did they tell you how long the parts are guaranteed for?" And I said, "Yeah, 4 years." He said, "Well, keep the receipt because within 1 or 2 years, you'll need to replace them again because of how bad the roads are." And I pointed out, did you know that the price of gas here is over $4? But when you go look at the price of gas, it's actually $2.30. And the disparity is taxes. So about 40% of the price of gas is taxes, and these taxes are earmarked for the roads. And people say, well, you got to pay taxes, you got to fix the roads. Well, you pay taxes every time you buy gas, you're paying taxes, and yet the roads don't get fixed. Not only that, you can't even go swimming now. All right, so it's getting so windy now. See how much the flowers are moving. It tells you how windy it is today. But if you look around everywhere today, especially today, you see the conversation extremely focused on our money system and what we are to believe is good money or bad money. And why is there so much focus on that right now? I mean, money has been around. We've been in a money system for thousands of years. And it's specifically paper money only 1,000 years ago. But gold and silver have been used for over 5,000 years. But you don't, you see things like Warren Buffett referring to gold as a barbarous relic because, of course, all of his wealth has come from the institutions that propagate and promote the paper money industry. Everything in the stock market is all denominated in paper money, and the insurance industry and the whole economy is based on this paper money. But gold and silver have held their value throughout it all. But you don't see a lot of fussing over it. You just tell people it's a barbarous relic. Look at all the money you can make through inflation, all the money people make on their property. It keeps people silent and apathetic. That is to say, not feeling a need or sensing any need to make any changes. In other words, making the idea of making changes so inconvenient and sticking with the status quo being so profitable that people just don't do anything. And it's like, so the question is, when a challenge comes our way in life, such as we live today in these challenging times, there are two kinds of people. One type of person is always looking for a reason why solutions won't work. This reason or that reason, and then do nothing. And so therefore we grab onto apathy. The other school of thought says, you know what? We've got solutions now. Abraham went out and says, we have solutions. We can go out here and be free, and we can use gold and silver. And yeah, we won't be in the city where all the activities are, and we'll have to make some sacrifices and live in tents, but we'll be free and we can create wealth and have peaceful and prosperous lives. And so, but you don't see a lot of fussing over the gold and silver, but you do see a lot of fussing. I call it fussing because that's what it is. When you have all of this discussion going on, heavily slanted towards the demonization of a solution to our money system. And I say our money system carefully, because I can't send 200 gold coins to you in an instant and for practically no money and safely and anonymously. But I can send 200 bitcoins very quickly to you, almost just about anonymously and with very low cost. And that bothers some people. And so, of course, it has to get demonized. That's just too much freedom in the world. We can't have that. Well, as I say, I use the word we very carefully because we is a collective prefix. There really is no we. When Abraham said we, he was referring to his own family. He wasn't referring to the people he left behind when he left the cities. I hope you enjoyed the video. Thanks for coming to our channel and have a wonderful day.